Greetings and welcome to an LGR thing that is coming to you from the new LGR Retro Room. It's still coming together, but it's quite cozy at the moment, and let's get into some coziness in terms of a console. This is another one of those unboxings of something decades later, and this is one that I actually never had back in the day, really, at all. And certainly never in the box. Yeah, the Nintendo 64. Indeed, the original N64's release was 30 years ago as I record this, and that's an insane realization. Now, back when I started LGR, the original NES console wasn't even 30 years old yet, so reviewing the 64 in 2026 is like reviewing an Intellivision was in 2009. The horror. But yeah, all these years later, it's just one of those systems that has continually stuck with me as a kind of an odd thing, an outlier among consoles of the late 90s, a system that I didn't know too many people that had one of those, or at least if they did, it was way later on, so I don't know. There's a lot of things that I didn't get to experience about it when it had just come out, and so I found another one of these things online where the seller was like, "Ooh, it's like new," but it's clearly a repackaged thing, and I knew that going into it, so it cost a little bit less, which was nice. But anyway, I just want to dive into it as much as I can like it was 30 years ago. So yeah, let's go into some history and context and SGI tech spec things, unbox it, play some games, and Nintendo 64! It's not Christmas, I'm not 10 years old, but I feel like it whenever I look at stuff like this, so yeah, let's see what it's all about. Right, so the N64 first launched in Japan on June 23rd, 1996, almost exactly 3 decades ago as I record this, and soon making its way to North American stores that fall on September 29th that same year, while Europe and Australia had to wait until March of 1997. As for pricing, at the time it felt wildly expensive to me, but in retrospect seems pretty fair. With a $199 launch day MSRP in the United States, though not even 6 months later, in March of '97, Nintendo dropped the price to $150. Reportedly due to a favorable yen to dollar exchange rate, and also rather likely as a response to Sony dropping the price of the PlayStation earlier that month. Speaking of '97, the unit I have in box here is a 1997 version of some kind. I don't know all the ins and outs of varying releases, but the art here is rather different from day one launch boxes, which displayed other upcoming games on the back, namely Pilotwings 64 and Killer Instinct Gold. On that note, it's still mind-blowing to me that Super Mario 64 and Pilotwings were the only 2 US launch titles on day one. It really felt like forever before I saw anything different demonstrated on retail demo units back then. Both demos looked amazing, but really just 2 carts? And yeah, we gotta talk about the physical media itself. Cartridges. In an era where gaming had rapidly adopted compact discs with their Redbook audio and 650 plus megabytes of storage, Nintendo caught pretty much everyone off guard and stuck with old school carts with ROM chips inside. And it felt old school even back then. I found it genuinely odd as a 10-year-old computer geek obsessed with the idea of CDs being the future, and cartridges felt like a step backward. And the industry wasn't exactly all aboard either. Nintendo reportedly lost the support of some big-name third-party developers because of it, the most notable being Squaresoft and their Final Fantasy series moving over to Sony PlayStation and PC CD-ROM. However, from a business perspective, Nintendo had their reasons. One was as an anti-piracy measure, with carts being harder to duplicate than discs, and they offered much faster access times, eliminating a lot of loading screens. And of course, Nintendo manufactured the cartridges themselves, setting minimum production amounts and ensuring them a cut of each game sold. Which, according to anonymous sources, game makers allegedly may have ended up only making around 13% profit per cart, with the rest going to Nintendo. And this all led to higher prices for consumers as well, and I distinctly remember being shocked every time I looked at a Best Buy flyer and saw how much new N64 games cost compared to console and PC games on disc. $60 was effectively established as the base price, with certain titles being $70 or more in 1997. You have fun with their low prices. Yeah, $145 with inflation for Sub-Zero stories. Yet despite any storage limitations, the 64's graphical power could not be ignored. Compared to console competitors like the PlayStation and the Saturn, it was obvious looking at them side by side in stores on demo units that the 64 was on another level. And leading up to its launch, the gaming and tech press was full of hype, and more than a little marketing regarding Nintendo's partnership with Silicon Graphics, the company known for their $250,000 workstations used by Hollywood and well-funded game studios. Except this wouldn't be pre-rendered graphics like Donkey Kong Country, but real-time 3D. I vividly remember reading gaming mags and being blown away by the teaser images, and the idea of high-end workstation features crammed into a console seemed insane. It could do things I'd never heard of at the time: MIP mapping, anti-aliasing, trilinear texture filtering, hardware Z-buffering. What was all that about? I didn't know, but I wanted it. Although I never got it, at least not when it was new. Instead, all that 3D tech talk led me down the path of 3D accelerators for my PC, so I bought a 12MB 3DFX Voodoo 2 card instead, but that is another story entirely. Right now, it's all about the 64, and the SGI-infused silicon inside I want to take a closer look at real quick, and yeah, I have a spare console we can crack into to see what's within. So now that we're in there, check out this lovely compact mainboard. I've always enjoyed the way this looks with those huge flat packages soldered in and the way it's all laid out so cleanly. But the first thing I want to point out being the 94MHz NEC VR4300 processor, which was essentially a cost-reduced derivative of the 64-bit MIPS R4300i. And yes, it did actually possess 64-bit registers, data paths, and buffers, something marketing was happy to latch onto, calling it the 64 of course. But it was paired with a 32-bit external data bus, and most games only ever utilized 32-bit operations, so it's not exactly a fully 64-bit system, but dang, it was some good late 90s salesmanship during the bit wars, and it did its job. Now, towards the lower middle, we find 4.5MB of RAM bus dynamic RAM, a bit of an odd number, but that's because half a megabyte was reserved for things like anti-aliasing and Z-buffering. Then right in the middle is the RCP NUS, the Reality Co-processor, which really made the N64 what it was. This SGI/Nintendo co-developed ASIC houses both the Reality Display and Reality Signal processors, handling the core graphics and audio. This was all genuinely powerful in many respects, while also being hamstrung in others, like the now infamous 4KB texture memory, which meant tiny 32x32 pixel textures were constantly being swapped in and out, resulting in a big reason games have that notoriously stretched out lower res art style, which is really more of a technical limitation. And I mean, I kinda like it, but it is there for a reason that they couldn't do a whole lot about. Yeah, the N64's output was always both super impressive and strangely smeary looking, often with low frame rates that made it feel like it was barely holding on. Though I really don't remember too many gamers actually caring back in the day though, not unless you were totally reeled in by all the hype surrounding the SGI Nintendo Project Reality and Ultra 64 marketing that maybe led you to expect otherwise. Those early to mid-90s promo videos showing off real-time 3D Project Reality demos looked incredible. However, they were running on SGI workstations costing anywhere from $100,000 to $250,000, so implying that was in the same league of power we'd eventually get on a Nintendo console at home felt misleading. And if you frequented arcades back then, I'm sure you recall those loud Ultra 64 teasers on the attract screens of Killer Instinct and Cruisin' USA, with Ultra 64 being the initial working title of the console on its unveiling in 1994. This stuff could really make you believe, this is what we're going to be getting at home. But after 3+ years of teasing all this at industry events and arcade cabinets, what we actually got at home was, well, a bit less. Don't get me wrong, it was still technically impressive, especially compared to competitors. But the marketing heavily implying the 64 would bring workstation silicon and arcade system experiences home was a bit exaggerated. I'm not going to go into the whole nitty-gritty of all that, though if you're curious, check out MVG's video covering the hype and the hardware. It's enlightening stuff. But for now though, it's finally time to open this up, set it up, and play some games. So yeah, as mentioned previously, this is definitely not new in box. I don't even think it's 100% complete, but it's been repackaged in pretty darn good condition, at least, and it's got some stuff in here. I don't think everything. Yeah, there should be like another couple of bits of paperwork at least, but yeah, we got the console, we've got the controller, which again is in really good shape. Feels, yeah, quite fresh. Oh, that feels really good. If this was, I mean, it is used, but it had to have been very lightly so, and very well stored. This might be the only thing that is actually new. So, you know, repackaged jobs, it definitely saved a little bit in terms of buying one of these. The actually new ones can go for a heck of a lot of money. But yeah, so we've got the composite video cable here, which is the same style connector as the Super Nintendo. And other than some missing paperwork, that's pretty much all you actually got. Because yeah, it says it should include the console, AC power supply, a controller, and a stereo AV cable. That's it, and it does have all those. Since we're back here anyway, I wanted to mention this proof of purchase sticker thing where you can see this is a big section that's been ripped off there. That would have also shown the original serial number, which would be matching that on the bottom of the console. And that was something that was supposed to be torn off and sent into Nintendo by the retailer at point of sale. And it's extremely rare to see those still attached to the box, though it does happen on occasion, but they command an even higher premium because of course it does. But yeah, as for the console itself, I've always found this to be such a beautiful, pleasing kind of design. It sort of reminds me of the Neo Geo CD system just a little bit. I like this kind of 90s roundedness going on. I don't know, it's got a style to it, you know? The 4 controller ports along front, that was quite exciting at the time. No need for a multi-tap. A nice little reset button here and the lovely power switch. That feels so fresh. And then the power supply plugging in right there. This is just an odd kind of thing where this entire unit just goes in like that, chunks into place. And then your various AV output right there would just take all kinds of different cables. And then this right here, which was, I don't think it ever used for anything here in the US, at least not really. There was the Nintendo 64 DD system, or the disk drive. It came out in Japan. It was planned for the US, but never happened. And there were only 9 games for it. But one of them was SimCity 64 DD, which is notable to me at least. Yeah, it was one of the earliest, or I guess the earliest, fully 3D SimCity game. And yeah, the documentation, or at least this one bit of it that I have here, which I guess does actually match the box there. Yeah, -3, there's like -1, -2, -3. Yeah, pretty simple 20-some page thing here. I do like how they consistently said in all kinds of marketing that it features CD quality stereo sound. They really wanted to push that, even though of course there is no CD of any kind. I mean, technically it's capable of it. So not a lot of games used 44.1 kilohertz. Usually it was something like 22, a lot crunchier. And yeah, all the different things that you can connect to it. RF and composite being the main options here in the US, although I think S-Video was also a thing. And I'm sure there were RGB solutions overseas. Actually, you know what? I seem to remember that there is no RGB natively on this thing at all. Yeah, as an SVHS, that means a S-Video cable. So there is that. An RF modulator and composite, and that's pretty much it, I guess. Anyway, it's a very clean output no matter what in my experience. I mean, even RF looks pretty darn good on a CRT TV. In fact, I'll probably be using that on at least one display I'm gonna try this with. And then, of course, the controller. What interesting design. All these decades later even, it still doesn't really look or feel like anything else before or since. And you know what? It's not actually that bad. It is strange, but you know, for the games that are well optimized for this, it makes total sense, and it actually works a lot better than even some of the alternative ones, the newer ones and stuff that use a different style of joystick. You kind of really need this springy little thing with the edges like they are and everything to really work well in certain games. Racing games in particular, but even like the fine movements in a lot of 3D platformers, which racing games and 3D platformers are very much just kind of bread and butter here. And also just, I love all the different colors, like the ones that were translucent. I think they were called Funtastic by Nintendo. So deeply late 90s, early 2000s, the translucent colors for the console as well. This is really the first console that I remember doing that in terms of having so many options for colors and styles. And yeah, it was such an unconventional controller. The third-party companies didn't waste time providing alternative game pads. And no surprise, there were a lot of them. The Interact Super Pad, Mad Catz Advanced Pad, Nyko Alpha Pad, the Performance Super Pad, Hori Mini Pad, plus many modern-day offerings from Retro Fighters and Hyperkin, 8BitDo, XYAB, and many more. Some of them are great, many of them aren't. And then, yeah, we have this right here, which is another quirk of this controller. That is where the memory card or rumble pack will plug in, and not at the same time. So yeah, you can have either the controller pack for save games or the rumble pack for vibration and feedback. Not at the same time. Nintendo's like, you gotta pick one or the other. Although a lot of games also let you save to the cart, so it wasn't a huge deal. And then there were third-party options like the Tremor Pack Plus here, which combined both of them. Although again, you can't really have them each at the same time. There's a switch on there to go between either memory card saving or the rumble feature. And speaking of memory and add-ons and things, you have this right here, which says a memory expansion, and that was something that didn't come out until later. You just had this jumper pack at first, which is really just a blank. Leave it in there if you don't have the memory expansion. Of course, it wasn't even out when the thing launched. But when it did come out, it allowed certain games to, well, run at all, as well as enhancing a number of others. But yeah, specifically Donkey Kong 64 and Perfect Dark come to mind as being memory expansion games that needed the additional 4.5 megs of RAM, so doubling the RAM of the entire system. Again, a thing that you just don't see anymore. It's just fascinating all around. I don't know, N64 is such an oddity, and I really like it for that. Yeah, at this point, I'm more than ready to set it up and get some games going. And speaking of games, well, all right, here is most of my collection. I'm still missing a couple of boxes, not too much more though. This is the majority of what I've owned really for 15, 20 years now. I first started grabbing these while thrifting around like 2006, 2007. And then it was one of those things where I just picked up one every so often whenever I found it thrifting. And only a couple of these have I actually bought in more recent years just to test out on videos and stuff. But yeah, pretty much anything that's valuable, I got it a long time ago for very little money, including all the boxed stuff. And my goodness, in terms of the boxes, these things, they just do not hold up very well. Like I found this in a thrift store and that was actually pretty good condition. And you know, it was one of those things where like, oh man, I'm never gonna find another copy of that. So I was just glad to have it, even if it's a little bit smashed. And you know, they're just so flimsy. There's hardly anything in there. You get like some inserts, a really, really cheap folded up cardboard kind of thing. And the cartridge, and it's really not great packaging on these things. Another annoying thing is that, of course, they don't have any end labels. So putting them on a shelf next to each other like I used to have, it was just like, you know, blank, right? That's not very satisfying either. Though nowadays, of course, many people make their own end labels and you put them on there like that, which helps a bit. So yeah, the scarcity of them, the fact that they're just not terribly satisfying to collect unless they're complete in box, and then most of the time the boxes are crap, and then all these things have led to me not acquiring all that many of them. But you know, this is still a good number. And my goodness, in terms of just picking a handful out, there's so many enjoyable, obscure things to choose from, and so many first-party titles too. Of course, you got Wave Race and Mario Kart and Diddy Kong Racing and Ocarina of Time, Super Smash Bros., Episode 1 Racer, Banjo-Kazooie, Star Fox, the WWF games, Turok and Perfect Dark and F-Zero and Blast Corps, Killer Instinct and Star Fox and Doom, and oh my goodness, so many things, even like Top Gear Rally. Like I just remember seeing this cover on the shelf back in the day and be like, I just want to play that game. Even though it wasn't necessarily a favorite or anything, it still stands out in my mind. Not to mention growing homebrew options nowadays. I showed this on an Analog 3D video, but yeah, Shotgun Mario 64. These kind of things are just fun to pick up at shows every so often. I like finding homebrew at independent seller tables. And even though there were only about 300 titles released in the US, a flash cart like the EverDrive 64 X7 or any number of others, this is something that is very nice to have because, man, paying out the ass for so many of these games, it's kind of ridiculous how much things go for. But yeah, let's just dive into some things here. I'm gonna pick out a handful and we'll play them on the CRT. All right, stack of games ready to go. Let's get this thing ready to be powered on. And our lovely Sony Trinitron here, a KV1923. Definitely a bit older than a 64, but I don't know. I certainly played the 64 on something of this era quite a bit at a friend's house back in the day. But yeah, let's start with Super Mario 64.
Mario.
All right.
Hello.
And yeah, no startup, no booting intro animation, no nothing. It's just right into the game and right into the stretchy Mario face, with a similar thing being demonstrated at trade shows and stuff years before this. But yeah, I remember seeing this at a demo unit, just thinking it was so cool. It's like, wow, it's all interactive and stuff. Man, how do I grab onto it? I think it's like, yeah. Amazing. So I got some save games on here already, and I guess I'm just gonna start over with one of them.
Dear Mario, please come to the castle. I have baked a cake for
Genuinely, how impressive this was back in '96 is hard to describe. Yeah, this kind of thing just blew my daggone mind, that's absolutely for sure. The fact that you could move around in any direction. Even when other games came along, like I remember specifically playing Crash Bandicoot alongside this in a Best Buy. They had them both going on demo units, and like this was just so much more smooth, right? And you can go in any direction. You could change the camera around, and you know, compared to the behind the camera, more fixed camera of Crash Bandicoot and stuff. I don't know. It just felt like such a crazy cool thing. It's like big open area to explore, and just holy crap, you can swim, do all kinds of just crazy moves and stuff. It felt like an endless world of possibilities. Like nothing I'd ever seen, genuinely. And yeah, into the castle, and I distinctly remember playing this and being so confused at first. Like the first time I went in here, I'm like, what the heck? I was going into doors and stuff, and they were just like empty rooms, and it weirdly took me a minute to figure out that you can't jump in these dang paintings.
Let's go.
Yay, let's do things. Alright. And I actually haven't played much of this game even since then. I test it out every so often when I'm doing something, but for some reason I've never actually sat down and played this very much at all. It's so strange going back to this too, like just these textures laid out over such basic geometry and everything, and I don't know, it's such an oddly abstract, primitive thing. It's amusing to look at. It really looks like some sort of SGI tech demo type of thing, which I mean, I guess it is, but yeah, like this thing that just looks like it was there as some sort of graphical demo that somebody came up with, and then, well, there it is. It's in the game now for some reason. It just got that look and feel to it, like these things. Like, look at this. It's so ugly, and at the same time, it looks so cool. I don't know. This game has aged weirdly in my mind. It looks so bad and good at the same time. I don't know. I like it. And even compared to something like Tomb Raider coming out like the same year, this felt so much more freeing and just, I don't know, they got it so well. Or, pulled it off so well in this first attempt at a 3D Mario compared to so many other 3D platformers, which, while being groundbreaking and as good as they were, compared to this, it's not even close, really. And a lot of that too is due to that controller, man. Especially the one that's new here. Like you can just do all these fine movements, like barely moving around, like sneaking and doing that, and you slowly ramp it up, and it just feels immediately intuitive. At least nowadays. Not so much back in the day. I remember it definitely taking a bit of time to get used to this. Alright. Ah, amazing. Give me that star. Nice.
Here we go!
What a lovely game. I need to play more of it someday. Alrighty, next up, another early title, Star Wars Shadow of the Empire, which I don't remember much about. Oh boy. Well, that is crunchy. That definitely sounds more like an AM radio than anything. Not quite CD quality audio for that, but hey, mixed bag when it comes to these cartridge games. And I have not played this, I guess, since the 90s. Honestly, I can't remember ever having booted it up or anything. Yeah, I really don't even remember what this game is. I guess just scenes from the movies. Yeah, all right. Oh, yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, I do remember this. Change views or anything. Hey, there we go. That's cool. Oh. Well, don't do that. Oh, bounce right off the ground. Okay, what am I supposed to be shooting? What? Amazing. What great gameplay. Okay, stage 2. Okay, sure. Oh, well, you know, a worthy sacrifice. Heck yeah. I mean, it's a pretty effective way to take him down. What a neat little game. I don't know if I've played any other stages than this one. I probably did. I really don't remember much about this at all. Like, I barely remember this being a thing, but yeah, okay, so I do remember trying to get the tow cables around the AT-ATs here. Neat. Is it working? Nice. Empire doesn't stand a chance, baby. I win Star Wars. Or not. Alright, one of those that absolutely defines the system in a way. Cruisin' USA. Bring on that Ultra 64 gameplay. Or, you know, an approximation of it. I still thought it was the coolest thing ever that you could play this at home, like just at all. This is just a game that completely grabbed my attention forever, really. At the arcades, it still grabs my attention. I love this game. And the idea of being able to play the version of it at home that was any kind of resembling the arcade was so cool to me. I didn't care if it wasn't exactly the same. Oh, that music. So yeah, not quite the arcade experience here. It's a little restrained, to be sure. But hey, it was Cruisin' USA at home. And it was one of the biggest reasons that I wanted an N64 back in the day. Bonk. I love the highly detailed, realistic physics. Always have. Yeah, the CD Red Book Audio kind of soundtracks of other consoles of the generation are sorely missed here. But hey, it's fine. It fits. And again, back in the day, I didn't care. It was Cruising USA. In hindsight, this isn't very good. It's, yeah, you know. I'm still really fond of the arcade one, but, well, you know, they tried. Alright. Yay, trophies! Alright. I've cruised enough. Alright, a couple of not so super classics here, but a couple of personal favorites. The first one is Duke Nukem 0 Hour. And yeah, I'm playing this, and not Duke Nukem 64, which is a kind of version of Duke Nukem 3D Atomic Edition for the 64 in a weird Nintendo-fied, censored, altered way. Kind of a remix, actually, but as interesting as that is, and actually it's a pretty good game on its own right, this is just, you know, it's different, completely different. It's third person, it's an exclusive to this system, and it took me years to be able to play this once emulation got like good enough. And yeah, it was like maybe 2004 or 5 or something by the time I finally played it. Did I say Rumble Packs? Something about Rumble Packs. I guess I can insert one of those.
New York is in trouble, Duke. The alien scum have taken over the areas around Liberty Island. Without immediate intervention, they'll get the whole damn city. Your helicopter is waiting. Go kick some ass.
Looking good, pal.
Who the hell are you, my evil twin?
I'm you, genius, only back in time. Now hear me. Aliens have traveled into Earth's past to try and change history. I went back and fought them, but my time machine was destroyed, and I can no longer chase them through time. As a result of their tampering, your timeline will experience temporal disruptions.
Well, so much for my vacation time.
Yeah, Duke's Vacation, always getting messed up by time travel. So, yeah, this is such a different one, too, in terms of the way it plays and feels compared to, like, Time to Kill or Land of the Babes or whatever, ones on the PlayStation, right? How do I open it? There it is. Yeah, it's a fascinating one. I much prefer playing it on, like, the PC, either through, like, mouse and keyboard on an emulator, or there is a PC version now, I want to say, that some fans have made. I haven't actually tried that yet. But yeah, I remember when I played this on an emulator, it was like, I just mapped the mouse and keyboard to it, and it was a much more pleasant experience.
It ain't no bike, but it sure beats the hell out of walking.
Yeah, I got some Duke Burger over there. All right, here we go. Oh my goodness, that frame rate. Oh, it's trying real hard.
Groovy. Oh, mama.
How do I change weapons? There we go. Yeah. Shut his head clean off. Yeah, I thought this game was so cool back in the day. And man, it made me want to play it. Just, gosh, I don't even remember when I first saw it. It might have been like I want to say it was playing at an electronics boutique, or it might have been, was it GameStop then?
Kids, remember I'm a professional. Don't try this at home.
Either way, it was a Haynes Mall. That's all I know. And yeah, I was like, holy crap, this looks cool. All right. Oops. Should have known that. Ouch. Ballock. Alien Hunter. Alright. A little Two-Rock reference. I really should be able to get a soda. You can do that in Time to Kill. You can't hear.
Gonna rip him a new one.
Nice. Well, what a cop-out. Well, anyway,
Die like the rest.
wish we had some save games going on here, but I guess it's like you reach a save point or something. I don't really remember.
Don't try this at home.
Either way, I do recommend the game, but you know, the performance and the controls and everything, being able to save and stuff anywhere you want, so much better on an emulator or a PC port. Yeah, anybody remember BioFreaks? I certainly do. I'm not sure I'd call it a favorite, but man, it's one that sticks in my mind. Yeah, so ever since I found this at a local Blockbuster when they were clearing out their old N64 stock in the 2000s sometime, yeah, I'd never heard of it, picked it up, looked weird, and it is weird. It was one of those where it was like a midway thing, kind of in the same vein, or maybe some of the same engine or whatever. It was like Mortal Kombat 4 and what was that other one? Mace the Dark Age, of course, War Gods.
Choose your one.
It's just such an odd one with odd characters and kind of a cool design. Purge. Rumble Pack is inserted. So much rumble.
Let's rock. Battle one fight.
Oh boy. It's so awkward. Oh, why am I... Yeah, I think there's like a shield or something you can bring up that's like just weird shiny polygons. There's so many pointy polygons everywhere. Amazing. Yeah, I don't remember having much fun with this at all. Why am I playing it then? No, I mean, like this, going against the CPU, but like against my brother, against friends, other people. This was weirdly entertaining, and like it's such a janky, odd game that it always felt like an interesting toss-up as to like who's gonna actually succeed or like somehow accidentally do something that was cool. I don't know, it was just such an odd little world with odd characters. It's just stuck in my head ever since. Like, what am I even? And you see, like, you got like missing limbs and stuff. Things get all chopped off. It's just kind of interesting, kind of. I don't know. It's forever associated with the N64 in my mind, and I picked this as a fighting game as opposed to any of the others that are actually good. Yeah, that kind of pseudo-gravity kills kind of soundtrack too, just the industrial feeling of it. There was just something about it, I guess. I should probably look at the controls, but like, what's the point? It's not going to be good either way. Come on now, come on. Oh, I got killed by polygons. Yeah. Okay, next game. And of course, I mean, we've got to do this one. 007 GoldenEye, or GoldenEye 007, whatever. So yeah, weirdly, this is one that I never played back in the day. Didn't know anybody that had it. I don't know if I ever saw it, gameplay of it. I mean, I probably did at some point, but I don't know. I just didn't get to experience it at all until like 2007. Somebody I knew, they were having like a house party thing. And it was like, oh man, let's get the N64 out and 4 controllers, multiplayer. Just shoot each other. And I was blown away by that. I was like, holy crap, where has this game been? This is so ahead of its time. Went back home, played it on my own system, found it at a pawn shop. I was like, dude, heck yeah. And yeah, it really is just, it's crazy ahead of its time for a first-person shooter on a console. The way it plays and looks, and yeah, the gameplay elements of it, the detail, the control scheme. I mean, there's a lot of cheesiness, but it kind of fits. I loved all the faces and the little polygonal dudes. It's so charming. And yet, honestly, still really fun too. So, anyway. Let's see, how do I, is it this? Yep. So yeah, the fact that you can do this, or just kind of go around and shoot more normally. Oh man, you can shoot through the glass and like, yeah, they react to individual shot placements and, dude, it's just so cool. Like, it's optimized so nicely for this controller. Can I look up the controls and get the best menu music ever? Dude, so good. Of course, at this point, I can hardly hear this without thinking. Good googly moogly. Right. Okay. 007, get out of my way, baby. Yeah, the fact that you can just like shoot locks and stuff. So cool. So cool. I really enjoyed the GoldenEye movie too as a kid in the 90s. And like, I would have really enjoyed the heck out of this. Honestly, I feel like if I had played this, I would have been like the most eye-opening thing, just in terms of being able to realize what first-person shooters could be. Because there's just nothing like this on the PC back then, or like any other console. That's what you get for taking a dump. Jeez. Why do the cardboard boxes explode? I don't know. It's great though. Amazing. Oh, N64. What a good time. And that's about it for the Nintendo 64, 30 years later, at least here in LGR. And it's such a cool, strange little system to me. Its hardware, its controllers, its games, and the fact that it was mostly a North American success and less so elsewhere. It sold 32.92 million units worldwide, but 20.63 million of those sales were from the Americas. That's like 63%. Only 5.5 million sold in its home country of Japan, and 6.75 million were elsewhere around the world, putting it at number 9 among Nintendo console sales. Still more than the GameCube, although that ended up getting twice the number of games made for it with an even shorter lifespan. Yeah, the 64 really is a bit of an oddity, and I don't know, I've always enjoyed it for that. Another oddity being how it was able to be emulated or not emulated over the years. Like I remember having my Voodoo card and being able to play Project 64 in like the year 2001, which was insane. I didn't understand how that was possible, and that is a whole different rabbit hole, as is emulation in general for this system. It's been a really mixed bag of trying to get full cycle-accurate, graphically correct emulation for all the games on the system. But then in more recent years, software and hardware emulation has gotten so much better for the system. Now you can do it on a MiSTer or FPGA consoles, some of which I've covered before. But you know what? There's nothing really like going back to the original console, especially when it's in the box, even if it might not be the original box. I don't even know. I don't even care. It was just fun to imagine it's the 90s again for a moment in this video. And yeah, definitely let me know in the comments what your experiences with the system were. Did you get caught in the whole Project Reality Ultra 64 hype and hoped for a little bit more? Or were you not even aware of any of that and we're just happy to have the system? Maybe you're like me and got into it later on with emulation and other things like that before eventually going back to try the real hardware. Whatever, I just like hearing those experiences in the comments, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. And there's always other stuff in the works here on LGR, so stick around for that. And as always, thank you very much for watching.